Alright, so I find myself underneath the 8530. I was running it last night and it dawned on me this thing hasn't had an oil change in a while. We put a few hours on it. So it's time to do an oil change, right? You don't even see that oil coming out of there, but it is coming out of there. So this tractor holds like 7.5 gallons of engine oil. Like 7.5 gallons of it. I started it up a little bit ago and warmed it up, got that oil nice and warm, and you know, which is a good thing to do. It takes a 1 1/4 inch wrench to pull that off. The engine is way up here, and then it's got this cast iron guy, and because you can't make it on one shot, you have to have 2 buckets. Yeah, 2 buckets. Now, this oil that's leaking here, I have no idea why it's leaking. It is old. It's an old weepage from the from before I changed the dampener or coupler there. So I just decided that today was the day to do it. And normally I run Schaefer's oil in this, and that is Schaefer's that's coming out of there. But Costco has had a sale on oil. They've got Mobil oil on sale today, and the Kirkland oil is not on sale, but it's generally a reasonably priced oil. Now, for most of you that don't know, Kirkland Signature oil is produced by another company that produces engine oil. Other companies that produce engine oil, like I don't know if it's Mobil or Exxon. It's not that company. You can look it up. It's a very old oil company. I can see it here. Give me a second. Oh, Wesley. So, if I could just get that there. Costco Wholesale. So, Warren Distributors. Warren Distributors is probably one of the largest oil companies in the country. Probably. It's close if it's not. They make base oils for all different companies, and this is actually really good engine oil, believe it or not. I was a little skeptical for it until I did the research on it, and I know there's a lot of guys that'll go and get Kirkland Signature oil for their tractors. Now, this is 1540, and normally with the Schaefer's 1540, I run a semi-synthetic or a synthetic blend, which is 1540 regular and synthetic 540, but they don't have 540, they got 530, which is fine. It's winter time, or it's getting near to winter time, and I will be running this tractor this winter on several different things. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change the oil, and I'm going to spike it with the 530 synthetic. I'm going to make my own blend. Starts easier, runs good. Full synthetic motor oil. You can get 540 is what Valvoline would run, but they didn't have 540, they got 530. So if I blend it with the 1540 and the 530, it's going to come up somewhere in that 1035 range or whatever. I'm not doing a 50-50 either. I'm going to use it like 1/3 of the synthetic, just because I like synthetic oils. Engine wear is good, and it's perfectly fine to do that. A lot of people are like, oh my god, you can't blend them. Well, that's a myth. You can blend them. When I am done this fall with the VTing, because we are still doing that, if you hear a machine out back, Timothy is putting rye into the spreader. He's ahead of me now. I wanted to get the oil changed in this. I got to do some filter changes as well. I have got a filter for this transmission in here. I gotta find it. This thing is just filthy, but you know what? It's in its work clothes. That's what we call that. But yeah, so I'm gonna get back to work. I'm gonna go ahead and shut up and put this in the waste oil burner for my heat this winter, and get the new oil in. Okay, on these tractors, it has 2 fuel filters, and it has the engine oil filter right here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and loosen this thing up like that. It takes a wrench, 1 1/4, same as the drain plug. That is a fiberglass or carbon fiber cap on this thing, and I'm going to go ahead and loosen it up enough that any of the oil that's in it will drain out into the bucket below. I'm hoping that it does anyway. Yeah. Okay. Once you get it loose, right, like that, it'll allow some air to get in there. And it won't leak all over the place. There is a drain for it right there, but I don't think it's really necessary. Nope. Okay, so here's the new filter. I have a bunch of filters over there. There's probably $5,000 worth of filters over there. And this is what it looks like. It's a paper element or cartridge filter. Okay, cartridge filter. Goes in like this. Doink. And in the bottom, there's a new O-ring. So after that oil runs the rest of the way out of there into my bucket, that bucket, see it? It is running much faster now. I like to get as much of the old engine oil out of this tractor as you can before you put fresh in, because not that it makes a difference, right, Tim? Doesn't make a difference?
No.
It's not that it makes a difference if it's old and dirty. Just peace of mind, I guess, you know, any of the dirty oil. It's just carbon, you know, but it needs to come out. So before I do that, yeah, I think we're pretty good. What are you doing?
Spreading.
Spreading. Well, it looks like you're standing here, right? You're not standing there? Yeah, where did you get to?
Finished.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and fire it up. Hopefully it's still, this has a Vapormatic system on it, so you have to punch in a code. Unless it's within so many minutes, then there you go. Life is good. Now, this tractor does not have a, I'm going to change fuel filters too, but this tractor does not have a way to pre-fill your filter so it starts dry. Let's see what happens. You can watch right there. It's already up. Sensing pressure. I don't notice any weird sounds. Actually sound like it quieted down a little bit. Now there is a group of people that will take the used motor oil and run it through the engine. And that's okay if you're running like a 4020, 4430, 4450, 4960 or something like that, and you want to change your fuel filters immediately thereafter, saving yourself supposedly 5 gallons of fuel. Fuel filters have gotten to be the point where they're so expensive, it's not. That oil is better spent preheating your shop before you go to work in there. And that's just a fact. You just do not put used engine oil into your diesel fuel if you have a tier 3 interim or newer tractor, or if you've got to change those fuel filters. Fuel filters are not cheap. It's cheaper to just burn it in your waste oil burner, or recycle it, or whatever it is you do with it. Yeah, I did that with the 7410 once, and it cost me hundreds of dollars in filters to get that damn thing out of there. I don't know why, but those fuel filters are like a 2 micron and the oil filters are like a 10 micron. So all that black just goes right to those filters, plugs them up. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just don't do it. 2 micron from 10 micron or even 12 micron. That's a lot of, it's a lot of difference in there. Let's see if we get some black smoke, baby. Yeah, buddy. I think she's sounding pretty good. So I'm going to change the fuel filters, and the reason I'm going to change the filters is because I might as well do a decent service, an engine service. The transmission service will be later. I should probably do that now too. I got to see what I got under there. I'll crawl under and see if I've got the filter, which I think I do. I should have them if I don't, but and then I'll change the hydraulic filters as well. I haven't had any warnings or anything, but what I really want to do is change the hydraulic oil in this tractor because it hasn't been done in several hundred hours, and it's due. it's due. This tractor's got 6,570 hours on it, and I want it to go to 12,000, 11, 12, 13, 15,000 hours before I have any issues. So let me shut her down and get on to the next thing. So once you're done with that, this particular tractor, this particular dipstick requires you to screw it down to check the oil. It's not one of those, some of the older ones, or some of the, I don't know if it's the older ones, but I've seen some of these things that it says, you know, not necessary to screw it down. You don't want to have what you call windage in your engine. If you don't know what windage is, you should stop watching this video now or stick around and learn something. Windage is when you overfill your crankcase and the oil is hitting the crankshaft and connecting rods and all that. So right there it says tighten to check. So tighten her up, loosen her back up again. I don't know if you can see that, and you can see that the oil is dark, which is fine, because you can never get all the oil out of there. That synthetic that I put in there, I made a blend, but that synthetic I put in there will clean this engine out. If you've never ran synthetics in your engines, I wouldn't suggest going and shocking your engine with pure synthetic. Use a synthetic blend and change it more often if you're going to convert over to synthetics. The problem with synthetics is they will find weak spots in your gaskets and seals. So if you've got a gasket or a seal that is weak or weeping a little bit, that synthetic motor oil will actually, the detergents in it, it will actually clean the carbon out of those gaskets and seals, and you will develop a leak. Not that it is any, why am I over here? Not that it's any different, that the seals have changed at all, or it doesn't hurt the seals. This is my guy right here. Let's see what we got in there. I've already changed that one. So I've got a primary and a secondary, and I've already changed that one. So I'm going to just change the one. Why would I have just changed that one? I'm gonna have to take a look. Is that it? No, that's an air filter. Yeah, so it's not, I wouldn't do it. If you're running conventionals, continue to run conventionals. If your tractors are older, if you got a newer tractor, run synthetic blends or full synthetic from right out of the box. A lot of people, you know, the myths of years ago was, oh, don't run synthetic when it's new because it'll never break in. Well, that's not true. I should say that it isn't true. It's not true. But is it true? It is. I don't know. I've had it both ways. Your cylinder sleeves will never. That is a 236. That is a 236. That is the right one. I've had it both ways. I've had people tell me, you know, hey, it never seats the rings. You know, the rings never wear in, which, you know, I really don't believe that 100%. And I mean, I've done enough engine work over the years that I would call that BS. I really would. I would call it BS. Look at that snapping noise. I gotta do some work to the front end of this tractor. Yeah. The reason I call it BS is, you know, when your engine is brand new, it is the tightest it's ever going to be. And wouldn't you want your engine to be that tight, like forever? You know, not wear in, and then you lose that little bit of compression. And I will tell you, what am I doing here? I must be full-blown retarded today. I want an engine to not wear. You know, I don't want a worn engine. I want an engine that is as tight as it was the day it was made for as long as I possibly can. And if it's going to have a problem, that problem should be addressed within a very short amount of time. You know, like, if there's going to be a problem, like a compression problem, I don't want to wait until there's 90,000 miles worth of wear or 1,000 hours of time elapsed to find out and have to address it. So that's why I'm saying I would much rather run synthetic, and if there's a compression problem, know right away. Hold on a second, let me shut this off. So if you're still here, I mean, if you're thinking that these problems that you're going to have because of certain products that you're going to use are going to cause these problems, I just don't see that it's so. Now, there might be a study somewhere, and there might be somebody that says, oh yeah, somewhere's on this, the Mythbusters did this video, and you're wrong. Well, okay. You know, I can be wrong. It's all right. I'm not afraid of being wrong. I'd rather be wrong and corrected than right and somebody else is wrong. I mean, you never learn anything by being wrong or being right. You never learn anything being right because you were right. Right? Because you were right. So when you're wrong, that's when you learn. You learn more by being wrong than you do by being right. Now, I've been wrong a lot in my life, and I'm okay with admitting that I'm wrong. And here's something that you don't see every day. Yeah. They stole the damn... Okay. That's not going to be fun. Somebody take the O-ring? Hold on. Hold on. What's this? There's no O-ring in there. There's no O-ring in there, and the O-ring that they gave me is wrong. So, alright, hold on. I'm going to go dig the old one out of the garbage. Now, am I wrong for reusing an O-ring for a fuel filter? I don't think so. I could tell you, probably someone's going to be bitching and complaining that I just used a pair of pliers to pull that thing out of there with. Hopefully I didn't cut it. But there it is. So what I'll do is I'll actually flip it over. Drop it on the ground, and I'm going to take the side that was against the face and I'll turn it over. I think it'll fit. Yeah, it fits. So I flipped it over so it has a fresh surface to seal against. I think that would be the way that most people do it. I mean, Mr. Rogers would do it that way, I'm sure. Yeah. No, that O-ring that was in my hand is not the right one. Okay. So now that I've flipped it, I wonder if my wife is going to get me something to eat. She's mad at me right now. But it's okay to get mad at somebody. How do you learn if you don't piss somebody off, right? So, come on, bugger. Yeah. I did make her pretty mad, though. I don't like making my wife mad. But sometimes it happens and you just move on with it, right? And I'm hoping everything fits up in there just fine. There's a new thing there. Now this tractor has its own electronic fuel pump. That's what gets me with this sucker. Hold on a second here. I'm gonna go ahead and put the screws to it. You really, I just changed that O-ring over, right? I done dropped you almost. I like to have that number facing out so when I go to pick out a new filter, it's right there. And that filter wrench I just used, that came from a YouTuber, Jeremy Lee. You don't know him, he's around. Jeremy Lee was a kid when he gave me that. Talking probably 10 years ago or more. Anyway, Jeremy gave me that. I think it was his dad's. I kind of hope he asked permission to give it to me, but who knows? Probably not. You know, kids are that way. They're like, oh yeah, I want to impress this guy, and then they go steal their dad's tools and hand it over. Well, I took it, and I appreciate it very much still to this day. So, anyways, what I was saying was that tractor has its own fuel pump. So when you go to start it, you know, it's like, oh, you should have filled it. No, not that one. Not that one. No. This tractor will let you know when its fuel filter is getting a little plugged. It will. It'll give you a slight little indication like, hey, seems like it's taking more power to climb a hill or something. Okay. So we'll let that thing pump up with fuel. It is a common rail system, and if you don't let it pump up with fuel, it'll just die. It'll just die. And then it'll cause you a whole bunch more trouble to get it started again. I had to 8120. I couldn't get it to start. I dumped gas down in the intake and finally got her to fire up one time. But yeah, that was not a good thing to do. There it is. Seems like she's running okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and let her run a little bit. Raise that up. I fixed the O-ring problem that I had. What I need to do is figure out why my lights on the right hand side are not functioning. I think I'm going to do that now. Let's see if I can find there's a fuse that is probably blown, and I need to find it on the right side. Alright, so if you were wondering that 10W30 or 5W30, if that would be any good for this tractor, that mobile one, it's right here. 040 as the largest range from -40 to 122 degrees Fahrenheit, whereas the 5W30 is 30 below to 104 degrees, and the 1540 is probably the perfect range for us. 1030 is not, but the 530 is really, that's pretty decent. So I had that 530 I put in there, and that is perfectly fine. Oil viscosities for air temperature ranges. So even if I ran straight 5W30, we very rarely get over 100 degrees. So I just figured I would state that for all the people that are freaking out that I just put 5W30 over 1540 or blended it together. I blended it so I'm a little broader range and a little higher temperature. We never get below 5 below 0 here. Very, very, very rare do we even get to 0 or 1 or 2 below 0. But and generally then I'm just gonna stay in bed anyway. Just kidding. I'm just not gonna bother running tractors.